All right, I want to give all praise and glory to Yahweh Bahasham, Yahweh Shai Bahasham Ha Rakah Kwadash. Double honors unto our apostle elders, which rule great millstone wow, and shalom to the hopeful elect of the nation of Israel. May you endure unto the end. Shalom wa bababal. This is Jeremiah 30, verse 7. Allah's, which is an expression of grief. For that day is great, so that none is like it. It is even the time of Jacob's trouble, but he shall be saved out of it. All right, which the Israelites, the sons of Jacob, are the so-called Negroes, Latinos, and Native American Indians, starting with Judah, the so-called American Negro, Benjamin, the so-called West Indian, Levi, the so-called Haitian, Simeon, the so-called Dominicans, Zebulun, the so-called Guatemalans, to the so-called Panamanians, Ephraim, the so-called Puerto Ricans, Manasseh, the so-called Cubans, Gad, the so-called North American Indians, Reuben, the so-called Seminole Indians, Naphtali, the so-called Argentinians, to the so-called Chileans, Asher, the so-called Colombians, to the so-called Uruguayans, Issachar, the so-called Mexicans. These make up the two kingdoms of the nation of Israel, southern kingdom and northern kingdom, which the kingdom of Israel was divided after the death of King Solomon. All right, so now we're in the time of Jacob's trouble, in which you have the government, all right, of Esau coming out saying that they want to implant a microchip, a wearable tracker in your body that's going to track your life, which was prophesied they would do in these last days. All right, Revelation 13, and it would be here in America where it really kicked off, and it would be commanded to go throughout the whole world through the draconian law of the so-called Caucasian. It says in Revelation 13 and 11, and I beheld another beast coming up out of the earth, and he had two horns like a lamb, the Republican and the Democrat. And he spake as a dragon, which I'm going to show you this is happening, all right? And what they're going to do is they're going to make it mandatory that you have an implantable microchip for buying and selling, which will condemn you, all right? America is going to be destroyed by nuclear missiles, according to prophecy. And if you accept that implantable microchip so that you could buy or sell, you're going to be destroyed with the wicked in their kingdom. It says in Revelation 13, verse 15, and he had power to give life unto the image of the beast, that the image of the beast should both speak and cause that as many as would not worship the image of the beast should be killed. This is why you see the reports of people losing their citizenship, even though they have birthright citizenship in America. It's because they're going to go against you, and they're going to make it mandatory that you have an implantable microchip to prove your birthright citizenship. All right, it's leading to that direction, and it's really sped up today, this holy day. And I say it's a holy day because the Supreme Court just pretty much, said that they gave Trump pretty much all power, which this is a prophecy that happened, and it's happening today. All right, it's being declared anyways today publicly. It says, and he causeth all, both small and great, rich and poor, free and bond, to receive a mark in their right hand or in their foreheads, which we know that this is what they want. All right. And that no man might buy or sell save he that had the mark or the name of the beast or the number of his name. Here is wisdom. Let him that hath understanding count the number of the beast, which this beast is a man, for it is the number of a man. It's talking about the so-called white man, the red devil the Bible speaks of. And his number is 666, which the implantable microchip came out of the idea of the barcode system, which the barcode system had 666 in the barcodes. Before that, the Greeks and the Romans, they used to brand their slaves. All right. And so in this generation, because the technology, they're going to make it mandatory that you have an implantable microchip for buying and selling and identification. All right. Which is in the same fashion of what they did in the past in slavery with the
Democrats want to put chips in your body and they want to literally track you. Let me get this straight. You have Elon Musk literally wants to install a chip in your head. That's what Musk is building, a chip inside your brain and your head. But I guess MAGA's okay with that. You have a AI company called Palantir having a government...
Palantir, by the way, I looked it up. Palantir, we known for looking up words too. Going into root words. Palantir means to see far. A tracking system. Palantir, see far.
Government contract with the Trump regime to create databases and lists on every American. You have RFK Jr.
Which is nothing that microchip technology, Revelation 13 and 16, is nothing but a tracking system to make you digital slaves.
Everybody to wear a device called a wearable that will track everything about their health and send it to the government. It's always projection and confession with these MAGAs. Here, play this clip of RFK Jr. talking about the wearables. Play this clip.
About their physical activity, about the way that they live their lives. We think that wearables are a key to the Maha.
That's a quote for chips, microchips.
And to make America healthy again. And we think that wearables are a key to the Maha agenda, making America healthy again. And
what if you don't want to be healthy? What if you like to eat junk food?
Which the implantable microchip is the wearable tracker that RFK is talking about. All right. Talking about the implantable microchip, which is the mark of the beast. All right. So they got that in their intentions. All right. And if you take that implantable microchip, you're going to be condemned with it. And I'm talking to the Israelites. All right. Okay, and now, today, June 27th, 2025, the year that we pray and hope for judgment and that the Lord destroy our oppressor, the Edomite, and his kingdom, and enslave them under us, the Israelites, which are the slaves of America. All right, because this devil, the so-called Caucasian, the red devil the Bible speaks of, is preparing to come down with great wrath upon the Israelites in America and really throughout the world by making an implantable microchip mandatory for buying and selling and identification. This is an RFID implantable microchip that they're going to mandate for buying and selling to be part of that beast system. And it tells you in Revelation 14 that if we take that, you will suffer the nuclear destruction. All right, it'll make you cursed. All right. It says in Revelation 14 and 9, it says, and the third angel followed them, saying with a loud voice, if any man worship the beast and his image, the so-called Caucasian, the Edomite, and his system, and receive his mark in his forehead or in his hand, and I just showed you what RFK Jr. said, and we all know that Elon Musk has a company with putting microchips in people's foreheads. All right. The vice president, J.D. Vance, he's a banker that funds this kind of equipment. And then Trump, we know that he's with the other ABC groups of Esau to get the agenda of the Illuminati done, which their agenda to push this technology was given to them by Yahweh Ba'Hasham Yahushai. That's how we know before it happened, because Yahweh Ba'asham Yahushai, he intends good for us, the Israelites, that have an ear to hear and an eye to see what's going on. So he gave us this information so we wouldn't be offended. It says in Revelation 14, verse 10, it says, the same shall drink of the wine of the wrath of Yahweh Ba'asham Yahushai, which is poured out without mixture into the cup of his indignation, starting with the truth coming out, the prophets, and then Yahushua is going to come to fulfill the prophecy. And he shall be tormented with fire and brimstone, which the nuclear missiles are going to devour his kingdom, in the presence of the holy angels and in the presence of the Lamb. And the smoke of their torment ascendeth up forever and ever, which America is going to smoke for a very long time. And they have no rest day nor night who worship the beast and his image, and whosoever receiveth the mark of his name. Because it tells you in Revelation 16, and I heard a great voice out of the temple saying to the 7 angels, go your ways and pour out the vials of the wrath of Yahweh Bahasham Yahushua upon earth, which is with his men. We're prophesying it, and then Yahushua is coming to fulfill it. And the first went and poured out his vial upon the earth, and there fell a noisium and grievous sore upon the men which had the mark of the beast, and upon them which worship his image, which eventually is going to lead to their nuclear destruction. All right, so you're going to break out with the it was really, it says noisium, which is like a disgusting, horrible disease. It says in Revelation 14, and I was at 9, the same shall drink of the wine of the wrath of Yahweh Ba'asham Yahushai, which, once again, you had the prophets telling you what would happen to you if you accept this implantable microchip, which is poured out without mixture into the cup of his indignation, which is America. You first had the prophets, now the sorrows are coming. It says, and he shall be tormented with fire and brimstone in the presence of the holy angels and in the presence of the Lamb. And the smoke of their torment ascendeth up forever and ever, and they have no rest day nor night, who worship the beast and his image, and whosoever receiveth the mark of his name. Once again, you're going to be tormented by taking that, breaking out with the disgusting disease, and then die in the lake of fire. Asking yourself, why didn't I listen to my teachers? Verse 12, here's the patience of the saints. Here are they that keep the commandments of Yahweh and the faith of Yahushai, which is going to be our stability through these times. All right. Now, this devil coming down with great wrath and showing his teeth. All right. They just passed today that Trump is pretty much not able to be stopped by anybody. All right.
Which now comes to the fore. That was meant for the babies of slaves. It wasn't meant for people trying to scam the system and come into the country on a vacation.
But see, this is how you know they're a liar, a fork-tongued liar. The slaves in America were the so-called Negroes, Latinos, and Native American Indians. And these are the ones that they're trying to capture and destroy. All right, so their own tongue is going to fall upon their own head, and their shame is going to be seen. It's going to be televised, the destruction of their kingdom.
This was, in fact, it was the same date, the exact same date, the end of the Civil War. It was meant for the babies of slaves, and it's so clean and so obvious. But this lets us go there and finally win that case, because hundreds of thousands of people are pouring into our country under birthright citizenship, and it wasn't meant for that reason. It was meant for the babies of slaves. So thanks to this decision, we can now...
All right, so it went into a commercial, so I went to AI and I asked, about the history of slavery. I said, who were the slaves of America? It says the slaves of America were primarily Africans and their descendants who were forcibly brought to the Americas through the transatlantic slave trade. Now I'm going to jump down because, the devil lies. It says, while African Americans made up the vast majority of enslaved people, Native Americans were also enslaved, particularly in the early colonial period. However, African slavery became dominant due to its profitability and the racial ideologies that developed to justify it.
These numerous policies and those that have been wrongly enjoined on a nationwide basis, including birthright citizenship, ending sanctuary city funding, suspending refugee resettlement, freezing unnecessary funding, stopping federal taxpayers from paying for transgender surgeries, and numerous other priorities of the American people. We have so many of them. I have a whole list. I'm not going to bore you, and I'm going to have Pam get up and say a few words, but there's really, she could talk as long as she wants because this is a very important decision. This is a decision that covers a tremendous amount of territory. But I want to just thank again the Supreme.
Because they're going to cause a great tribulation with these draconian laws. They're going to make it mandatory that you have an implantable microchip for buying and selling. And if you will not accept it, they're going to try to put you to death. Whether it's literally chopping off the head in these FEMA camps or putting you outside of the cities to where you'll starve to death because they're going to be in war pretty much, all over. So there will be no more going to work or going to the grocery store or running water. All right, everybody will be killing each other, as it says in 2 Ezra 15, murdering each other for the lack of bread and for great tribulation.
Supreme Court for this ruling. It's a giant. And they should be very proud, and our country should be very proud of the Supreme Court today. And with that, I'd like you to listen to the words of Pam Bondi. She's an incredible Attorney General. We're very proud of her. And as you know, Todd Blanche is with us, and we have so many others that worked on this case and other cases.
And it's great.
All right, so he kept saying that America should be proud of that bill, right? That giant bill that he's getting passed, right, by the Supreme Court, allowing him, pretty much he has unlimited rule as the king of Babylon, which the elite are using him to fulfill the left-handed agenda of the prophecies. Now, I just want to play this guy because he actually talks about, really America's in shame. They really, the pride that they have is actually going to be their shame. All right.
Thank you so much, President Trump.
They changed it on me. Haters. Let's see your videos.
But it's a problem, and it's right there in our laps. It doesn't take a Harvard graduate to figure out what's going on here. It's money, it's threats, it's crews saying, yeah, they gather intelligence against Mossad gathers intelligence against Americans. It's the Southern Poverty Law Center and the ADL providing information on conservative Catholics and other conservative Americans to the FBI during the reign of Biden. It's like we're in a war that we don't even realize, and we're sucking up to the enemy.
I mean, I just got chills. I just want people to understand this is deadly serious shit we're talking about here. Like, this is not some fancy sensationalized stuff. This is the highest level. I mean, this makes me absolutely furious.
Well, you see, to be perfectly fair, Netanyahu wants to destroy as much as the first four amendments of the United States, the first two amendments at least. And he's obviously doing it through his surrogates, through IPAC, through ADL, through the Southern Poverty Law Center. Why wouldn't he kill us if he needed to? Or kill me, or kill somebody who is influential? I am not. But I'm not going to be quiet either.
So it ought to be, it's a disgrace for every American. It's a disgrace for 20 million Christian Zionists who think these gangsters in Israel are somehow the same thing as the Israelites in the Bible.
Right.
So you see who they're going against. They're going against the Israelites of the Bible, the so-called Negroes, Latinos, and Native American Indians, which have been scattered throughout the world in slavery. But their main target is the prophets. All right, because it tells you in Psalm 83 that they want to remove the remembrance of Israel, the real Israelites, from the earth. All right, so they're going to come down with great wrath. Psalm 83 and verse 4, it says, "They have said, 'Come and let us cut them off from being a nation, that the name of Israel may be no more in remembrance. For they have consulted together with one consent, which even the heathen are with them,'" the UN, "they are confederate against thee," which the so-called white race rules the world with this beast system, America being the whore that rides the beast in prophecy, and the beast being the European Union, which you saw the chief of NATO call Trump daddy. It says, they have consulted together with one consent, they are confederate against thee. All right, and it names off all the nations, but it starts with Edom, which the Edomites are the so-called Caucasians.
You're doing a great job, Pam. Please say a few words.
So I just wanted to point out the woman Pam that's about to speak. All right, the reason they're using her with the name Pam is because her name means all sweetness or honey, and this is talking about the laws that they've been given. All right, which she's gonna be the one to read off the laws. All right, but it tells you in Wisdom of Solomon 2, the wicked. All right, Wisdom of Solomon 2, verse 1, "For the ungodly said, reasoning with themselves, but not aright." I'm going to jump down to verse right here. It says, verse 8, it says, "Let us crown ourselves with rosebuds before they be withered. Let none of us go without his part of our voluptuousness. Let us leave tokens of our joyfulness in every place. For this is our portion, and our lot is this. Let us oppress the poor righteous man. Let us spare the widow, not spare the widow, nor reverence the ancient gray hairs of the aged. Let our strength be the law of justice, for that which is feeble is found to be nothing worth," which they're really weak, these Edomites. All right. This is why they're moving with these kind of laws, these draconian laws, because they're afraid. They know it's their end. It says, verse 4, it says, "And our name shall be forgotten in time, and no man shall have our works in remembrance. And our life shall pass away as the trace of a cloud, and shall be dispersed as a mist that is driven away with the beams of the sun and overcome with the heat thereof." Which, when Yahushua comes, their kingdom, America, is going to be destroyed with nuclear missiles, turning it into a lake of fire. "For our time is a very shadow that passeth away, and after our end there is no returning. For it is fast sealed, so that no man cometh again. Come on, therefore, and let us enjoy the good things that are present, and let us speedily," because they know they have a short time, "use the creatures like as in youth." So they want to go back to the slave days. All right? But they're going to be in straits.
Thank you, President Trump. Thank you for fighting for all Americans. Americans are finally getting what they voted for. No longer will we have rogue.
And that's why the Americans are going to get what they deserve, which is their kingdom being turned into a lake of fire.
Judges striking down President Trump's policies across the entire nation. No longer. Today, in the 6-3 opinion, Justice Barrett correctly holds that the district court lacks authority to enter nationwide or universal injunctions. These lawless injunctions gave relief to everyone in the world instead of the parties before the court. As the Supreme Court held today, they turned district courts into the imperial judiciary. Active liberal judges have used these injunctions to block virtually all of President Trump's policies. To put this in perspective, there are 94 federal judicial districts. 5 of those districts throughout this country held 35 of the nationwide injunctions. Think about that. 94 districts. And 35 out of the 40 opinions with nationwide injunctions came from 5 liberal districts in this country. No longer. No longer. These injunctions have blocked our policies from tariffs to military readiness to immigration to foreign affairs, fraud, abuse, and many other issues. The judges have tried to seize the executive branch's power, and they cannot do that. No longer. No longer. And on immigration, on a side note, today marks 2,711 arrests on these terrorists and these gangs. Total arrest today with HSI investigations. And thank you, Stephen Miller. Thank you to Homeland Security. Thank you to everyone working hand in hand with the FBI.
So this is what she was thanking the organization ICE for.
With Juan Gonzalez. We turn now to the immigration crackdown. ICE detentions have reached all-time highs, surpassing 56,000 people, the largest increase for people arrested with no serious criminal history. Nearly a third of ICE detainees have only immigration violations on their record, up from just 6% in January. This is according to data analyst Andrew Kocher. We turn now to just one case out of Southern California. On Saturday, Narciso Barranco was arrested while working as a landscaper at an IHOP in Santa Ana.
¡Eh, por qué le pegas!
We are watching federal agents. The video taken shows 7 federal agents, all masked, pinning 48-year-old Narciso Barranco to the ground, repeatedly punching him in the head before pushing him into an unmarked vehicle. Barranco
wants to know what happened to one of its citizens who died while in ICE custody in South Florida. Johnny Naviello was a lawful permanent resident who had lived in the U.S. for 34 years. ICE says he was being held at the Federal Detention Center in Miami and that he faced deportation over a 2023 conviction for racketeering and drug trafficking. The 49-year-old Naviello was found unresponsive and died Monday. ICE says his cause of death remains under investigation tonight.
All right, so
That millions of people,
as you just saw, all right, you got him beating and allowing Jake to die, or even other nations in their custody, right? So this is why it's called Jacob's Trouble, because they're really gonna turn it up for the so-called Negro, Latino, and Native American Indian. All right, now that he got approved. But I just want to play this little part of this Edomite, Jeremiah Babe, which he is an Edomite. All right, this shows you the mentality of an Edomite. All right, to the life of a squirrel, he don't give a fuck about what you call illegal immigrants or even legal immigrants or even descendants of the immigrants that are actual citizens that were actually... Their ancestors were here before these Edomites, okay? They came as conquistadors and other Edomite groups, and they came with the sword, and they slaughtered the Israelites that were here. The indigenous people that were here were Israelites, and they brought slaves on ships, which were Israelites, which they have here in slavery subject to payment. And they count themselves innocent, and they think nothing of us. And this is why America is going to be turned into a lake of fire.
will come in from all over the world that we're all paying for. Why would you just go there
and just grab an animal you don't know, of course you're going to get bit. Also, they killed his raccoon Fred, executed, euthanized, whatever you want to call it. His raccoon Fred also rescued when somebody dropped it off on their property. What did they do? They took it in. So they're saying because these two animals lived in Mr. Longo's house that, you know, they had to be taken and they had to be euthanized, right? I find it absolutely shocking that millions of people come in from all over the world that we're all paying for, bringing in God knows what type of diseases, what kind of criminal backgrounds, what kind of addictions, what kind of baggage. We have no idea, because we have no idea who these people are, coming from 150, 160 different countries, what their intentions are. Whatever their intentions are, we have no idea. But the government somehow finds a way to ignore all that and go after a squirrel and a raccoon. The government gang arrived at Mr. Longo's home and treated him like he was a drug dealer, he says. I watched a video last night, TMZ, Harvey Levin. He said that Peanut was the cornerstone. This is from Mr. Mark Longo. Peanut was the cornerstone of their nonprofit animal rescue. While they treated this gentleman like a drug dealer, couldn't go in his house for 5 hours, couldn't go and treat his other animals for 5 hours, interrogated his wife. They went through every cabinet, every drawer in the house. They had a judge that signed off for a search warrant for a squirrel and a raccoon, ladies and gentlemen. Yet we have people from all over the world here with very, very bad intentions, very bad histories, very bad backgrounds, people that are here for one reason, to do very, very bad things.
And so I just want you to see that's the mind of an Edomite. When the president of the United States is a felon, he has over 30 felonies. And that's what he's been charged with. All right, who knows what he got away with? All right, so this shows you that these red-skinned devils, the so-called Caucasians, are wicked. They're not upright in their mind. So now giving such a man that much authority, all right, where he's pretty much able to do whatever the fuck he wants, it's going to bring, all right, famine, death, and destruction, which is all in the plan of the Lord. It's all prophecy. All right, this is in the scriptures, how it would play out. All right.
With the FBI on all of these transnational gangs, TDA has been a huge terror to our country, as well as MS-13, as well as Sinaloa cartels. No longer. No longer. These injunctions have allowed district court judges to be emperors. They vetoed all of President Trump's power, and they cannot do that. This has been a bipartisan problem that has lasted 5 presidential terms, 5 different presidents, and it has ended today. We will continue to fight for President Trump's policies. I want to thank the Office of White House Counsel, Dave Warrington. You and your staff have been incredible. Our Solicitor General's office, John Sauer, Sarah Harris, and Todd Blanche and Emil Bovey. Todd's going to say a few words because we've had another major ruling today on transgender books and some other great wins that we've had. But no longer will they have this power in our country. It is the president's authority under his executive branch to do everything to fight for the American people, and he will continue to do that. That's why he was overwhelmingly elected. Thank you.
So as you heard, right, he pretty much has the power of a king, which in his mind, he's a god. These Edomites, they have a god complex. All right, so it tells you in, let me grab, it wasn't Malachi, it was Lamentations, I was thinking. Lamentations 4 verse 21, it says, "Rejoice and be glad, O daughter of Edom, that dwelleth in the land of Uz, which is America. The cup also shall pass through unto thee, and thou shalt be drunken, and shalt make thyself naked. which your shame is gonna be upon you, which it is already happening, but it's gonna be revealed that you're the devil because you're gonna persecute the saints unto death. Now you're not gonna be able to kill us all, but you're gonna be able to touch a few of us and put us to death, which will actually be the last nail in your coffin. The punishment of thine iniquity is accomplished, O daughter of Zion, which are the Israelites. He will no more carry thee away into captivity. So all his words are vain. He will visit thine iniquity, O daughter of Edom, which is that so-called white race, the red devils the Bible speaks of. He will discover thy sins, which you're the man of perdition, who is going into perdition because you're the man of sin. Edom, the so-called white race. All right? And we were set up to come tell you, we were set up to tell you about your future. It says in Isaiah 14:1, for Yahweh will have mercy on Jacob and will yet choose Israel and set them in their own land. And the strangers shall be joined with them, and they shall cleave to the house of Jacob. And the people shall take them and bring them to their place, and the house of Israel shall possess them in the land of Yahweh for servants and handmaids. And they shall take them captives, whose captives they were, and they shall rule over their oppressors. And it shall come to pass in the day that Yahweh shall give thee rest from thy sorrow and from thy fear and from the hard bondage which we were enslaved here in America, wherein thou was made to serve, that thou shalt take up this proverb against the king of Babylon, and say, how had the oppressor ceased, the golden city ceased? Yahweh have broken the staff of the wicked and the scepter of the rulers. Which it tells you in 12, how art thou fallen from heaven, O Lucifer, which America is going to fall from its authority in destruction, nuclear destruction, and the Edomite is going to go into slavery. Son of the morning, how art thou cut down to the ground, which didst weaken the nations? All right. And then I'm going to have to read the GNT version of Jeremiah 50. All right. This tells you straight up how the Lord feels about these people. All right. Because this is what it's about. It's about the Lord and his son Yahweh and his son Yahushai. And he's dealing with the Israelites. And there's nothing they could do against the elect of Israel. It says in Jeremiah 50, verse 35, the Lord says, death to Babylonia, death to its people, to its rulers, to its men of wisdom, death to its lying prophets, these false media prophets, what fools they are, death to its soldiers, how terrified they are, which we know that to be true, destroy its horses and chariots, death to its hired soldiers like these ice, how weak they are, destroy its treasure, plunder and loot, bring a drought on its land, and dry up its rivers. Babylonia is a land of terrifying idols that have made fools of the people, like Trump. All right? He's an idol that made these people fools to try to touch the elect of Israel. With your draconian law, you're a fucking fool. All right? There's a limit to your power, you fucking fool. All right? Esau thinks he's God, so he thinks he has no limits. All right? But the Lord has a limit to what Esau's allowed to do. And it tells you in Job 20 that when he reaches this limit and he's in his fullness, the Lord's going to destroy him. It says in verse 22, Job 20, verse 22, in the fullness of his sufficiency, which he is the wicked, and he was created to destroy, he shall be in straits, which the Lord's messing with him so that he can't accomplish what he wants to do. Every hand of the wicked shall come upon him when he is about to fill his belly. Yahweh's power through his son Yahushai, starting with his elect, shall cast the fury of his wrath upon him. and shall rain it upon him while he is eating. So we're prophesying, and it's going to come to pass where the Lord puts it in their hearts to rain nuclear missiles on America. Yahushai's return is when it's going to take place, that he puts it in the hearts of these heathen to rain missiles upon America. He shall flee from the iron weapon, and that's why they got billionaire bunkers. It says, and the bow of steel shall strike him through. All right? So America is going to be destroyed by fire. It says in Revelation 18, verse 20, it says, rejoice over her, thou heaven, and ye holy apostles and prophets, for Yahweh's power, which is being displayed through his elect in the name of Yahushai, hath avenged you on her. And a mighty angel took up a stone like a great millstone and cast it into the sea, saying, thus with violence shall that great city Babylon, which is aka America, be thrown down and shall be found no more at all. See, and that's why they're doing what they're doing, because they know their end is near. All praises and glory to Yahweh Ba'asham Yahushai, Ba'asham Ha Rekah Quadash. Double honors unto our apostle elders, which rule great millstone wow. And shalom to the hopeful elect of the nation of Israel. May you endure unto the end. Shalom wa abba.